Yeah, no, I would agree. With zero evidence, you better believe it.
With zero
I'm
evidence?
pretty sure we're the greatest. All right, welcome to the first episode of A Seriously Casual Perspective. We're Seriously Casual on Proudmoore Alliance. We heroic raid in World of Warcraft with people from the entire spectrum of experience. Here we're going to talk about WoW and anything else that comes to mind. I'm Ben.
I'm Matt.
I'm Brian.
And like I said, so we're just going to talk a little bit about ourselves. First off, I main Shaman. I'm the little blue girl there on the left. I've definitely tried to go for hardcore raiding. Didn't get very far. Made my way all the way up from a really low tier casual, and then found these idiots, and now we're fucking rolling.
I like to main druid. I'm the night elf, if you couldn't tell, because I'm a druid. And I definitely have never even bothered with hardcore raiding. It's just not for me. I much prefer just screwing around with you guys, collecting transmogs and mounts and stuff. So, that's what I'm all about.
It's a me, Brian. I have hardcore rated quite a bit. I was in a top 100 US guild for about too damn long. I want to say 4 years. It was pretty much all of Cataclysm, or as beginning. Wait, what the hell was before Cataclysm? Well, Wrath. Yeah, so
Wrath was right before Cataclysm.
Yeah, so it was the end of Wrath. I was on my realm at least. I was in the realm first. Heroic Lich King 25 kill. And then I went on to be way too hardcore for all of Cataclysm, and a little bit after that, I can't remember what was after that. But yeah, I hardcore raided for a long time, and now I'm over it. I've grown up. I don't want to spend that much time on taking this game that seriously. So yeah, founded a guild. Here we are.
And on that note, because I mentioned I kind of joined up with you idiots. I joined you guys at the end of Legion. I was in Antorus. The guild started in Emerald Nightmare, right, Brian?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I joined you guys in Antorus because you just found me from trade chat. I'd actually just left a real garbage can guild, and I'm going to use this term a lot. I'm going to call it the mid-tier mythic guild. These are guilds with like aspirations for cutting edge, but really without the talent or the management skill to actually get it done. Bad officers, bad raid. Everybody's been in these kind of guilds, right? But like that's not what we do here. We're all over the place in terms of the raiders we've got, but I mean we're just something special, man.
Yeah, for better or worse, I think this guild's very unique, for lack of a better term.
Well, you guys formed Emerald Nightmare, and then Ben joined during Antorus, you said?
Yeah, I joined the second week of Antorus. So funny story about that. The guild I was in wanted to skip normal, even though like a lot of the raiders needed normal. We got
Real
to
power move.
Oh, absolutely. It was gorgeous. We got to Antoran High Command, and we're walled on that for our first raid night. Killed the first boss in like a pull or whatever. It's super easy. Killed Fellhounds with a couple pulls. That one's pretty easy. And then we did High Command, and I think we did like 35 or something wipes. And I had a big argument with the current GM and raid leader, where he was like, I don't get it. We have enough DPS. Why aren't we killing it? Because we were dying to the enrage on that fight. Not mechanically.
Oh.
Like, mechanically, the players were pretty good. But then I just left. I saw Brian advertising in trade chat back when we did that, and now I've been here, 4 years?
I've joined up later. You told me about the guild, and I never really had a guild, so I joined up right at the start of Uldir. So I've been with the guild exactly since BFA started until now.
Yeah, because I was telling you, we were talking about WoW in like that dead zone, that drought of content after Antorus. And you're like, I've never really... I think you mentioned something like never really properly rating. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, I've literally only done like LFR / pugging some normals or something. Nothing crazy.
Yeah, and I mentioned like, yeah, dude, I found a bunch of really fun people to play with, and now we're all here and we're all leading this circus.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's really interesting going from where we started, because so as mentioned, the guild was founded in the midst of like Emerald Nightmare, and during the Emerald Nightmare tier. At that time, I just got back into WoW, and I was actually going to try to be like pretty. I was going to try to be in a cutting edge guild again. So I was raiding in a cutting edge guild, and then on the side I was pugging with our group of 5, if you will, and then every week we just keep continually pugging over again, and then we met Ray's group is for lack of a better way to call them. And they had a group of, I think, 7. I want to say, I can't remember the exact number at the top of my head right now. I'm pretty sure it's 7. And we did it like over and over and over and over and over again. And after I think like the 6th week that we did this, one of them was like, "You guys want to just make a guild?" I was like, I guess that's like we're obviously right. Like that's obviously where we're going from here, because we're already playing together over and over again. So like why not, right?
And for context, Ray is a founding member of the guild. Ray is a person.
Yeah, Ray's quite an enigma.
Ray is definitionally a human.
Yeah, Ray, if you're listening, I miss you, buddy.
We all miss you, Ray. Love you. I'm doing a heart. You can't see it.
He might see it.
He might
Dun,
see it.
dun,
I live pretty close to Ray.
Actually,
so, funnily enough, actually, onto the geography, because Matt and I are IRLs, right? We met playing Magic near the college we both went to. Mm-hmm. Brian, by the way, we live in Pennsylvania, for context. Brian lives on the West Coast, complete other side of the country, right? Like, nowhere close to us, but still, like, just the rest of the guild is kind of everywhere, right? We've got people in Texas, we've got Californians. I don't think we have anyone north of us, Matt.
We have so many Californians.
Nothing I can think of. I think we're technically. I think we're the most north, that we can get on this side of the U.S.
Yeah, like we don't have any New Englanders. We've got some Floridians, South Carolina. Like we've got people everywhere. Technically a European.
Technically a European, yeah.
I mean, he is European. He's not technically. He is.
He's an American. Listen to him talk.
I mean, yeah, but like. let's like say it's confusing because he is literally one of us, but also he doesn't raid with us. So
yeah,
yeah.
But yeah, like geographically, I mean, like we've all like kind of been filtered down here is the way I always described it in the past. Because like I mentioned where I was coming from, because I made a push for like hardcore raiding in MOP, which is like when I got good, quote unquote, and then sort of fell off the train. Took a break through WOD, mostly because I was failing college. So I had to quit WoW, came back near the end of college, and then, joined some middling guilds. But, like, I think 2 or 3 other people were in pretty much my same position, where, like, they kind of tried to go hardcore, but ended up sort of stuck in that quagmire. But then we've got people who just, like, our guild is their first guild that they joined, really.
Yeah, it's actually insane that we have any of those players.
And like we've all stuck around. I mean, just our raid is so colorful. I have no other way to describe it. It's something special. But enough gushing about ourselves. We're gonna continue to talk more about it. But as far as history, Brian, you said you were top 100. When was that?
Yeah, I was thinking about it earlier. So it was the end of Lich King, and then all through Cataclysm, and then after the last tier, the Dragon Soul tier, I quit.
Was this all in the same guild, or were you jumping?
Yeah,
guilds?
One guild. I went from someone who, because I also started playing in Wrath, like during TOC tier, and then like the server first guild, or the best guild on the server, literally just needed a 25th person because they couldn't make, because they had 6 players that couldn't make the raid, and so they were like, they're just asking their guildies like, hey, do you guys have any friends like that are like just like do some damage and have 3 brain cells that can do her 25 heroic Lich King, even though no one's ever done it before on the server. And one person, one obviously my friend, was like, hey, yeah, I got a dude. He's never heroic rated though. And they're like, what? And they're like, yeah, but hey, this guy, this dude, he's crazy. So they brought me in. 2 pulls in, I'm 3rd in DPS with no heroic gear. And they're like, oh, this okay, all right. I think we took 4 hours, like from when I started, when I joined the group, and we killed it. We killed it that night. So I was with them for that, and then then in Kata, they're like, hey, let's like we're hot shit on our server. Let's take over the world. So then we just made like a serious push for like higher ranks because they weren't. I mean, we're server first on Arathor. And you guys heard of Arathor before?
I didn't even know that was a server, and you've probably told me about this server in the past.
Yeah, I got nothing. Never heard of them.
Exactly. So like being server first on Arathor, it was I think it was like top 200 US. I want to say, I don't remember the exact ranking because again I started in TOC, right? So I didn't really know about rankings like at that time. So I didn't know I could just like I didn't know there was a leaderboard, you know? Like no idea. So then yeah, so I can't remember our exact rank during Wrath, but during Kata we peaked at top 100. I think it was like 97 is what we got to before I real life took over and I had to quit raiding at that level.
Gotta love that. But you brought up Lich King, which is all the memories are rushing back to me now, because I started in BC. The pre-patch was going on for Burning Crusade, but because I was a small child, I couldn't afford my own subscription. I think I was 10 or 11 when that was coming out. No, I was 12. I remember I was 12 years old. Anyway, so I was using my sister's accounts, which meant that I could only play when she wasn't playing, and she played a lot. But I ended up joining her guild, and I did like one Karazhan run because it took me the entirety of Burning Crusade to level my little Draenei warrior up from 1 to 70. And I did one Karazhan. It was great. I mean, obviously, I got funneled all the gear. Nobody needed it. We were already in the Wrath pre-patch. And then Wrath came out, and we decided to move servers, me and my sister and the couple other people that we played with, to an RP realm, which was great. I love RP realms. RP realms are great. But in that scene, there's not a lot of really good raiding guilds most of the time. So the couple of guilds I joined were cesspool guilds, right? They were just groups of people that used guild chat like a second trade chat. And we never really progressed anything. I remember pugging most of Nax. I pugged a lot of Ulduar, pugged TOC. But then in ICC, I met a group that has one of the best guild names ever that I've ever played with, was Nomragon Gasco.
That is a good name.
Yeah, they were the GM raid lead. I still have him on my BattleNet, so if you're listening, love you, bud. Genuinely one of the best players I've ever played with. Everyone else in this guild was turbo dog shit, including me. I was a total clicker, played Ret Paladin. I don't think I had taunt keybound. And to go back to my warrior for how bad I was, I didn't get defensive stance until like level 40 because I saw the quest, thought that it was lame and just abandoned it. So I remember getting flamed in a Scarlet Monastery Cathedral for not using Sunder, and I didn't even know what it was. But in any case, Nomragon Gasco was actually a ton of fun. It was my first like real organized raiding experience. The raid leader I played with was great, like I said. But a quick anecdote: when we got to Lich King, I think we were walled on 10-man Lich King normal for about 4 months, maybe 5 months. A long time, and we raided like 6 hours a week. It was a long time that we were just wiping into this guy. We had strats to run away from Defile, where we would have our hunter disengage off the platform to get out of it.
What?
Oh, it was some classic garbage. But yeah, then eventually that guild fell apart. Kata I kind of coasted through, and then I came back in MoP. I took some breaks here and there. In MoP, I had a job of my own. I could pay for it myself, and I had big aspirations for myself, and I got my ego stamped down into the dirt for how bad of a player I really was. And that kind of inspired me to get good. So now I'm here where I'm at today, after 10 years of growing from that experience. But Matt, you said you didn't have a ton of organized raiding experience. What did you actually do?
So I started playing in like literal actual vanilla, like days after the release, like the original release. But I was a wee child, so you better believe I started on my little night elf hunter, as we all did. Couldn't wait to get my little pet. I'm trying to dual wield because why would you not?
I'll have you know, I picked Tauren Warrior to start with because they're the biggest guys.
That makes sense, right?
Dude, Undead Warrior.
That's a good choice.
Man, everyone picked warriors except me. I feel left out. I'm just running around here with a cat.
Warrior brain.
But like my experience was very just like mid. I spent a lot of time in like low level dungeons. By the time I finally did get to like max level, like it wasn't even until I want to say like when was the level cap? 85
Cataclysm.
That's when I actually started to go, I should get a character to max level instead of making 30 alts. And that's when I started like trying to find a guild or just like trying to figure out what rating was and get into groups. But outside the occasional LFR and like maybe one or two normal runs of random raids, I didn't have much experience. So needless to say, the first time you or Brian insinuated that I had any amount of responsibility in Uldir, I was like, oh god, no, this is a terrible idea. You want me to what? You want me to monk move over Gahoon's giant cysts? Like, that sounds like crazy, dude.
I actually remember this moment explicitly because obviously you were an IRL of mine, right? And we got to Gahoon. And if anybody remembers Gahoon, there were the little balls that you had to run over the slowing little cysts, put the little gross crap on the ground. So you had to use 2 people teams to like throw it and catch it. Matt and I were the pair. And because I was a shaman who couldn't be slowed because of Ghost Wolf, I could get like 70% of the way there on my own. So it was usually just watching you chi torpedo towards the dunk zone as I did like all the work.
You would run the entire way and then I would take it, do one chi torpedo. I was there. That's it.
I made it.
But hey, got dunked. We were I'm gonna plant my flag confidently with no evidence. We were the most consistent team.
Yeah, no, I would agree. With 0 evidence, you better believe it.
With 0 evidence?
I'm pretty sure we're the greatest. But in any case, we did mention at the start the classes we like to play a lot of. So like I mentioned Shaman, Brian, you said Rogue, Matt, you said Druid. How do we land on these classes? We'll go to Brian first.
Dude. All right. So earlier I mentioned Undead Warrior, right? So
yeah.
that account, not my account. It was like, oh man, this is real. I haven't accessed this part of my memory in a long time. So I think it was like 5th or 6th grade, I want to say. I was at one of my friend's house, and he's like, hey man, I'm playing this game called World of Warcraft. You want to make an account? I'm like, that's a lot of work, like, you know, and it's subscription. But I'm in 5th grade. I don't got money. And then he's like, okay, it's cool. You want to play on my account? I'm like, absolutely, dude. So I made myself the Undead Warrior. Spent all night on this account. I literally I didn't go to bed. Like, it was a 1 8-hour session. Like, he went to bed. I stayed on. I stayed up to play. It was great. Never played that account again because obviously it wasn't my account, right? I didn't play the game again until like sophomore year in high school, and that's, you know, when I acquired World of Warcraft and was able to get my my friends actually paid my subscription fee because he also bought me the game because he was how do I put this? He had more money than I did. So he bought me the game, and then he paid my subscription fee for the sole purpose, not because he wanted to play with me or any of that, like, you know, stuff that makes sense. He wanted me because he knew that if he were to get me into a game, that I would get good at that game relatively quickly, and then I could teach him, because he did not have the same like determination to become good at things, at least in video games. So he knew that, like, okay, I could totally just pay for this kid's account, and then boom, he becomes good. He can teach me how to be good.
He's keeping the money in house, right?
Dude, he knows what he's doing.
Someone to coach him when he could just get you to do it.
Exactly. And so like, you know, he just studied that out sophomore year, and the first class I made was a rogue, solely, and I shit you not, is completely because I'm Asian, and ninjas sound cool. That is the entire reason I started playing as a rogue. And somehow I still go back to it today. I don't know how.
Now, before we get too off topic, but I do want to bring up there's been a running joke for the last like 2 or 3 expansions because you always main your rogue at the start of it, and then for whatever reason, half our healing team just leaves, so you
Every
end up playing your
time.
holy paladin
Every time, dude.
I mean,
Every
okay, so
time.
then, like, do you dislike holy paladin? Like, you
I
like
love Holy Paladin.
Okay,
I just love Rogue more.
you know what? Nothing wrong with playing favorites.
Like if my rank 1 healer has always been Holy Paladin, and I believe that's because because I played in Wrath, right? And that's when I started. So in Wrath, if any of you remember, Holy Paladins were pretty damn good. They had effectively they were the only one of their class or of their role that could fit into the like sub role that is quote unquote tank healer. Like they were the rank 1 out of thing. Like and no one else could do it anywhere near as effective as them. So in my head, Holy Paladins are always like king of shit mountain, right? So that just stuck with me for like literally years. And then when we started this guild, we couldn't find a damn Holy Paladin to like save our lives. Like we went through we had like fucking 6 druids, like 9 shamans, like every freaking person and their mother had a priest. Like the list goes on and on. Not a single Holy Paladin. I was one of the first Holy Paladins in the damn guild.
And also, funnily enough, I'm reaching back into my memory. Whenever I started in Antorus, I joined as a rogue, and I remember there being a bunch of comments about, "Oh, hey, we finally have a rogue," because you were playing your hunter through most of Legion.
Yeah, dude, Huntara, my insane naming scheme.
Absolutely flawless. But yeah, I because I've been all over the place, right? I've mained almost every class for at least a raid tier, but I sort of default back to Shaman because back in MoP, whenever I made my Get Good push, the class I did it on was Enhancement Shaman, and honestly, I can't tell you exactly why I picked it, other than the fact that Lightning is cool. And I really didn't want to play Ellie, because I didn't like casters very much, especially at the time. I just, I wanted to get in there and hit him with my axes. But I had rerolled to Horde, because all the good players were on Horde. And just stuck with Enhancement Shaman. And I got really, really good at Enhancement Shaman. Enough to, like, make it into a couple decent guilds, even though Enhancement Shamans weren't good ever, really. But from that time, Shaman's always been, like, either my first or second class leveled in a new expansion, or it's just the main outright. Like in Dragonflight, I absolutely plan on maining Shaman throughout most of Shadowlands. That I played Mage, I've played DH, DK, Rogue, Warrior, all of that. Because I definitely started with Warrior. I mentioned my Tauren Warrior because they were the biggest. I swapped back and forth on the character screen between Orc and Tauren. And if you play Classic, you can look at it. The Orc POV, the camera's kind of like low, so it's hard to tell which one's bigger. So I had to guess which guy was bigger between Tauren and Orcs, because you have to be the biggest guy. But I played Warrior pretty much through Cataclysm, because I played that Draenei Warrior that I leveled really slowly all the way.
The Warriors and Cat were so good.
They were very good. I was not very good. That was a different problem.
Different issue.
But Matt, you mentioned Druid.
I am a Druid player through and through. Basically, anytime you look at a lineup of classes or characters and you go, now which one of these little guys looks like he would maybe fuck trees? That's the one I'm probably gonna pick. So I ended up picking Druid mostly to heal, but I enjoy all of the specs for it. But if I ever switch off of it, it usually goes to something else that deals with nature, like Resto Shaman or Beastmaster Hunter. Like I just anything where I can have animals or like transform into something or splash someone with water, I'm usually on board. But I've mained tons of stuff throughout being with you guys. Like I've done Holy Paladin, I did Monk for a while.
So then, of the role, you would say you main healer?
I think so. I think it's the most fun to do in raid. I just like raid healing definitely way more than dungeon healing, but I also enjoy dungeon healing if we got like a core little group together. I certainly don't like doing it with pugs.
Oh wow, the healer doesn't like healing pugs. Strange. But I can tell you, I'm going to speak for Brian, but I'm pretty sure we're DPS mains through and through. Even though the joke is that he always rerolls to Holy Paladin, that's just because we don't have enough healers. But I know for a fact we just want to blast.
Dude, I just want to blast, bro. Man, I almost spit out. I was mid drink when you're like, man, like so I just want to leave the one that want to fuck trees.
I mean,
fucking spit out my water. Dude.
Actually, that's a good
moly.
question. Let's, you know what? I think I let you get away with that. Do you fuck trees?
I don't fuck trees. I definitely don't fuck trees.
Do your characters fuck trees?
You can't see it because we don't have like a camera for it in real life. But like I'm looking into the camera like The Office. I definitely don't fuck trees.
I do not fuck trees.
All right, jury's out on tree fucking.
No tree fucking here, officer.
But yeah, I pick Druid and everything. If you maybe play D&D with someone, I'm probably gonna pick Druid. If you, I don't know, if you plot me into the middle of some kind of RPG game, I'm probably gonna pick anything that can cast nature spells. I love like turning into animals or having an animal or something. Basically, if your mom or your 14-year-old sister would pick the class aesthetically, I also probably pick the class.
Huh.
Well, knowing you IRL and knowing that you are in fact my 14-year-old sister, I think that checks out.
I knew it.
Yeah, sorry. Secret's out. Anyway, for my sake at least, not to speak for Brian, I'll let you go pop off about it here in a minute. But I don't know. It's more that I don't dislike tanking and healing as much as DPSing's just always fun. I don't know what your thoughts about that are, Brian, but I got another separate topic that branches from that.
Dude, okay. Yeah, in the really short versions, I agree. Clearly, I'm not going to stop at the really short version. But, yes, DPS is the, like, in Dungeon and in Raid, in PvP, etc., 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 DPS is always fun. Now, healing. Raid healing is, if I let, you know, I'll give everything a score. So DPS, for me personally, in terms of quote-unquote fun, is always 8 to 10. Like, always. Like, no matter what. If, like, for me personally, 8 out of 10. Like, or at 8 to 10, rather. Healing, raid healing, is like, like, 7.5 to like 8.5. It's very rarely does raid healing for me ever get above like that in terms of how fun, quote unquote, or like quote unquote fun it is. Dungeon healing, solid 9. Like dungeon healing, super fucking fun. Tanking, dude, I can't. Raid tanking, 0 out of 10. For my fun, quote unquote. It is horrid. Like I loathe raid tanking. But dungeon tanking is a 9. So I never play tank roles because of that flip, right? Like, okay, cool, I'm gonna have during the week when I'm doing Mythic Plus or I'm in dungeons and stuff, it's like super cool, like super fun, and then we get into the raid and I'm like, holy moly, kill me. So that's why I never play tank. Healer, yeah, I dabble in heals. Another reason I think Holy Paladin has been my go-to, because that was like, yeah, in Legion was when the meme started, if you will. No, not Legion, BFA. In BFA, like from BFA Holy Paladin, Shadowlands. Wait, yeah, BFA and Shadowlands Holy Paladin have both basically just been DPS that happen to have green numbers sometimes. So that's probably the reason that's my favorite healer, quote unquote, because like, dude, you're just DPS, and then sometimes a green number shows up.
Yeah, pretty much. I was gonna take this off into tanking to start with though, because my thought is pretty much the same, right? Dungeon tanking, you're the guy, right? Like you're in charge of the route, you're in charge of your survivability. You get to decide how big or small the poles are. Always bigger, always better. You get to really show off like your ability to run the show as a dungeon tank. And then as a raid tank, all of your progression, 90% of your progression, I'll say, is just not dying to the boss, and the other 10% is learning when to taunt swap. Like, positioning in M+ matters. I'll always make fun of tanks that just non-stop move for no reason. But in Raid, you basically just sit there with the boss in the correct place. I don't know. Let's use a recent example like The Among Us boss, the Dreadlords in
Mhm.
Sepulcher. You have to drag those around the room, but you really don't got to move that far. You just got to make sure that there's space behind the boss for the DPS, melee DPS specifically, to stand, and that's about it. Otherwise, it's just taunt swapping it out every now and then. And outside of like the first couple pulls, living is easy because you already know what to do. You know what's dangerous. You just press your big 60% DR defensive, whatever that is based on your class, or you just don't because you're fine. Your heals will get you. It's really uninteresting most of the time compared to DPSing or even healing there. But man, dungeon tanking is. I don't know what they need to do to raid tanking, but I think it's also a gameplay design problem because there's already a shortage of tanks. So if you make it really hard where not everyone can do it, then now there's even less tanks.
Yeah.
I've never been a tanking person. I just the responsibility gets to me, and even in dungeons where I have 4 people I know, I'm just like, man, I don't want to mess up a route or like make this take an extra 5 minutes. Like,
No, see, there's your mindset problem. You didn't mess up the route; they did it wrong. Fuck your DPS.
Yeah, like like it's the difference between like a good tank and a great tank is it's literally night and day. Like I've met plenty of good tanks, and they've all thought they were like king of shit mountain. Like, and good for them. I'm glad they're happy with themselves. But they're just good. Like that's it, right? But a grip, but then so you're in, and they're like, how do I put this in the nicely possible? They're not, the experiences aren't memorable. Like it's a walk in, yeah, you have X, Y, and Z as your tank. So this is another day in the office, right? It's just another Tuesday. But you have a great tank, chances are you're gonna remember that guy. Like till this day, I remember. I don't remember his exact name, but I remember he played Prop Pally. I remember this guy. Like I'll never forget this dude, ever.
There's a brewmaster I played with in season 2 of BFA that I still remember because of how good they were.
Like, it's nutty, and it's a lot. And the problem, or rather the problem with like tanking is how do I put this? A lot of this stuff isn't a quick YouTube or Google search. Like what makes a good tank is yeah,
a lot of it's very intuitive, like muscle memory kind of skill. It's stuff that someone can teach you, but they kind of have to coach you.
Yeah, but they have to teach you. And a lot of the tank players I've met who are like just good and will probably unfortunately never be great tanks is they've only played tank. So they don't understand what their team needs. They don't understand what their team wants. So like a great tank, chances are they were a DPS main at some point and or were a healer main at some point. Because they understand exactly what their group needs from them. So like pulling, like say there's a dragon fight, right? You know as a tank you got to pull the drake to a certain point, and then you got to make sure there's enough room for your DPS to stand, otherwise they can't hit the boss, right? Well, a lot of the quote unquote good tanks will just get out of the bad, right, if you will. If there's a void zone, they just kind of like sidestep it. But now the entirety of the dragon is in said void zone, and we can't hit him.
Mm-hmm.
So that's and then of course we'd be like, hey, can you pull the boss 3 feet backwards? And they'll be like, okay, yeah, no problem. Or like, sure, or whatever. There's a lot of good tanks are, I don't know, man. They're little. There's an ego there, right? And
a lot of the good tanks in your category have huge egos. You mentioned it before, but they have the most swelled ego. Like, say what you will about DPS ego, but there is something special because these tanks have convinced themselves that they're doing it perfectly. So if you tell them they do something wrong, it's like an affront to them as people.
Yeah, it's like a personal attack. Like, no, man, you're just not perfect. No one's fucking perfect. Calm down. But yeah, like the great tanks are the ones that like know that, and also are tracking, like, is like, say they're doing a dungeon, you're like the tank is tracking healer mana, is tracking like DPS cooldowns to know when they can like pull big without having to ask every time. Like a great tank doesn't really need to communicate because Blizzard, or not, add-ons rather, have add-on managers have created a way where you can check all the information you need to be like a great tank you have all the information in front of you. You rarely need to make a call unless something goes wrong, like someone gets hit by something silly and they need a battle res, or that someone needs X, Y, and Z, right? But
and even importantly, from the DPS and healing perspective, a great tank, you can usually guess what they're about to do. I know I've been in enough pugs where I get really frustrated because the tank just runs off and does something, and I wasn't like prepared. I'd already popped my cooldown, but now I've got to chase them down to actually make good use of it, and now everything isn't grouped up, so I'm pulling aggro on one or two things because I had no idea the tank was going to do that. But a great tank will set up a pull where you can even just watch where he's looking and figure out what he's planning on doing.
Yeah, completely agree. And you can't teach, or you can't you can't just look up a guide on Icy Veins or Wowhead or whatever, be because there's not a section where it says main DPS for a tier. That's the whole section. That's step 4 to be a great tank, is stop playing tank for a tier and see what happens.
Now, on that note, and this is really unfortunate, this is actually why I personally dislike dungeon healing a lot, at least it's a large part of it, is that the difference between a good and a great healer is basically non-existent. You'll never feel it. It's there. Yeah. Great healers really do make a difference. Healers that are capable of kicking any mobs, using their CC to interrupt, setting up pulls with the tank, knowing when they need to heal somebody, being able to call out DPS's defensives for them because they're the one watching the health bar. All of that stuff's there, and it does make a huge difference. But if you, especially in a pug where you're not on voice or something, the difference between the best healer in the world and some guy who's able to time all the 15s is barely noticeable.
Yeah, because if your group has a great healer, then you don't notice them.
Yeah, that's definitely the biggest thing about healers. If they do their job well, you never even knew they were there.
Yeah, in Shadow, specifically in Shadowlands, is the only reason you knew if a healer was good was that, or rather really good, was they were kicking all that stuff, but they were beating the tank in DPS. That was the meme, because we're all alive, we're all doing good, and they're pumping. That's how that's not exactly a great, when you think healer, you're oh yeah, the one that does a lot of damage. What?
I think there's definitely stuff you can try to intentionally notice about healers, but it's so specific to every class, and it's like you said, it's going to be really hard to notice because everything's going fine. There's no big disaster happening, or you for the most part, unless it's some really bombastic ability, they're not gonna show off when they're popping their cooldowns at the perfect time. But outside of shenanigans with Ashen Hollow or crazy big DPS cooldowns, usually the two metrics I look for are for specifically druids, are they precasting or are they waiting until the damage is already out? But that goes with everyone. Can you anticipate the damage? Are you used to this dungeon mob doing truckloads of damage or not? And then on top of that, is everyone alive and you're doing some damage? Not a lot. It doesn't have to be a ton. It could be just 1k DPS or something. It just throw a Moonfire and a Sunfire out there, or weave in a couple damage spells. That's just showing me that you're going, yep, everyone's fine. And I know this dungeon well enough that I know I can get away with just throwing some spells out here, just get the dungeon done quicker.
And on that note, to move into the DPS side of things, the thing I hate most is that it's kind of easy to tell when a DPS is bad because everyone's got a damage meter. If you look at that meter and you see some guy at the bottom, and this is where a lot of the flaming and toxicity that people see in the game comes from, I think it's a lot more rare than most people do, but for the most part, it's pretty easy to tell when your DPS is really, really good because you see them blasting. But it's kind of the difference between good tanks and great tanks. A really good DPS, a great DPS, is one who's topping the meter and is weaving in their interrupts, their CC, their defensives, their mobility. They're helping the tank wrangle mobs. As a rogue, they can use tricks of the trade and go pull something somewhere else, or hunters with Misdirector, As a shaman, you can thunderstorm some stuff into the pack to make it easier. Those are great DPSs. A good DPS is a guy who just, when it's all grouped up, he can top the meter.
Yeah.
How many times have we all been in a dungeon and it'll be a +4 or +5, something we're just in there to grab Valor and get the hell out, or farm a specific item that we're going to pump Valor into. and we've gone, oh, like the mage or whoever has really low DPS. I wonder what his eye level is. Like he must be here for like a real +5. And we'll look and we'll be like, he's 10 eye levels higher than all 3 of us. What buttons is he not pressing? They're all in the spell book. You just open it, bud. Put them on the bar. Like,
and that's my biggest advice to every DPS player: always be pressing something. Even if it's the wrong thing, you'll do more damage pressing the wrong thing than pressing nothing.
Yeah, like uptime. Like that's another one of those terms. Like for tanking, the term is enabling, or for tank and healer, is like their job isn't to tank a thing or to heal a thing, it's to enable the group to do the content, whatever it may be. Like that's where a lot of the difference between the good and the great is. They don't even know that term exists in the World of Warcraft universe. And like yeah, like yeah, and like in DPS, dude, yeah, you get that guy, you see the dude, like you see your healer just got feared because we missed a kick or something. Like the really good DPS, you see them, like you see the guy about to go pull a mob, like for specifically rogue, because I've seen and done this a couple times myself. Is it like you'll see them going to a mob, you can vanish, shadow step to them, and then sap the mob so they don't pull. Like you see that in a dungeon, that guy's getting invited to everything. Like if they don't have a guild, and if they're in a guild, I'm asking them if they need a guild. Like that alone, even if they're not topping the meter, dude. The fact they have the fucking brain power to see and do, like, to execute that thing. If they're not top of the meter, chances are they're a tanker healer main, and we could always use more of those.
True, and especially the easiest part of DPS is getting your rotation down. Like a lot of the rotations are, fairly easy. Some of them are a little bit more complicated to do pretty well, because you don't even need to do it perfectly to do really well on your class to get like 95% of its output out. But if you're never doing those side things, those CCs, interrupts, enabling everyone else in your group to do well, then it kind of doesn't matter what you're doing on the meter in terms of like your ascension up the skill ladder.
Yeah, like if I find exactly. If I find a good DPS, I'm playing a dungeon, and this this hunter is destroying the meter. I'm gonna remember him for that dungeon. That's it. Like I'm never gonna remember him again. But if you're doing that and also doing all the extra, like you see the tank heading to this thing, you know that this mob doesn't have an aggro table, so they're gonna run through your tank and go to your healers. That hunter is throwing whatever the slowing trap is called, a tar trap, right between where the tank and the mob is, before the tank even fucking pulls. Like that absurdly little shit.
Even especially in our dungeon group, our DK was our tank. And if you remember Spires of Ascension, the big cat pull right after the first boss, off to the right of it, there's like 9 of those little bitches, and they will shred your tank to bits. Just simple things, so like, I threw an Earthbind totem down. Alright, cool, you can kite now. You can go reset your stacks, good luck. Or Necrotic Leak. Obviously, Necrotic's not coming back in Dragonflight, but like,
thank God.
That little stuff, especially when you're playing a tank, and like, oh, I need to reset my Necrotic stacks, and you notice the mobs are slow, even if you didn't see it beforehand, you're going to remember that guy who put the Earthbind totem down.
Yeah, happened to me all the time with trees. I always ask people anytime I joined a group and I was playing balance, I'm like, hey tank, do you want trees for this one? And they were always super thankful that not only did I ask, but because some of them did say no, they're like, nope, I got it, just push your damage buttons.
And I think especially to move a little bit into another idea of the Dragonflight talent trees, the fact that every class is either gaining some utility or getting access to some of the utility that they might have lost. Again, to speak for Shaman, the fact that I can, as an enhancement Shaman, use Thunderstorm, and not even just use Thunderstorm. I can't fuck up the pull because I can take the one that lets me knock them in the air. That's like a 2-second AoE interrupt. That's an incredibly useful thing. And I'm going to see a lot of Shamans not take that ability because they don't understand how strong that really is. Because it doesn't do damage on the meter.
It's like when you're a kid playing Pokemon and you're Metapod, Metapod, like a good example, Brian. Your guy is like, oh yeah, you can use X, Y, and Z move to lower special attack. Why the hell would I do that?
Sword stance?
Fucking-
That doesn't do damage? What's
Fucking
wrong with you?
solar beam? Hello?
Yeah, we mentioned tank ego, but I think a DPS mindset that's pretty bad is the Zug mindset, where it's just like,
Absolutely.
oh, me hit, dude. The amount there's a story Brian and I are aware of rogues that aren't using tricks of the trade and dying to aggro issues.
Bruh.
Boggles my mind. How are
Bruh.
you ever dead to an aggro issue as a rogue or a hunter?
Every time I see a rogue dead in a raid or dungeon, I'm like absurdly angry. Like, you have feint, you have vanish, you have cloak, you have evasion, and you have tricks. What killed you? What could you have died to?
On top of having the most like stops in the game, kidney,
Yeah.
cheap shot, gouge now for all rogues. Your
Thank
kick.
God. Thank
And
you,
you've
Blizzard
got infinite
overlords.
mobility with shadow step and grappling hook now. Like,
Yeah, that's not okay. But yeah, like, dude, like, yeah, classes that don't use their utility and just like keel over instead of, I don't know, like blocking or ice blocking rather. Like, just come on, work with me here.
I definitely think a good way to pick out good TBS is if they interrupt. A better way to pick out good DPS is if they kind of naturally make a like interrupt rotation. Like, obviously it's easy when we're not pugging, right? But if you get that sweet spot of like, okay, cool, the resto shaman knows exactly when wind shear needs to go off, like we know exactly which mobs the druid's gonna solar beam, like we're set.
Dude, like getting into a group, like it's, and this is literally like a fucking shot in the dark, but like, dude, like you're pugging, say you're pugging solo for a reason, and you get into a group with 4 other people who are just paying attention. You know, no Discord, no voice, no like even no coordination at all, but all this stuff naturally happens. Like halfway through the dungeon, or you notice halfway through the dungeon that your DPS have a kick rotation. They didn't say it at all. There was no talking, but there is a kick rotation. Like, just that. Oh, that warms my heart, dude. It's a beautiful thing. I think it's only happened probably twice in my entire like WoW career. But
I mean, I guess to be fair, you don't pug like ever. But
also that,
you're
yeah,
smart.
yeah, I don't pug anymore. I've put that behind me.
Yeah. Best pug advice I can give is find friends.
Yeah, is to stop pugging.
Yeah. At any point, if because everyone's gonna hit it. If you ever feel like, man, I'm really tired of pug tanks always messing up the polls, you got 2 options. The first one is tank yourself. The second option is find friends.
Yeah, you don't even have to find a guild. Just maybe you have a really, really good tank in your +3. Shoot him a friend invite. Just say like, hey, I'd love to invite you for future ones. Like me and my other buddy, love to have you again.
And on that note,
guarantee you're gonna get someone. Like
to one of the people who our guild was their first guild, is he tanked for us for a little while. Tall, you probably know who you are, but he joined a pug group and he was pretty nervous. He was a pensive tank. He was very new. I think it was a +10 freehold back in BFA, and he's like, oh, I'm kind of under geared. I don't really know what I'm doing. We just brought him in. We were just like, yeah, whatever. And now he's better than most tanks I've ever done some 20s with.
mm-hmm.
Just a little bit of effort and finding people that are at least, actually, let me steal some advice. Is to find people you can make mistakes with, because everyone in pug is scared of getting called out for messing up, right? Or Matt, you mentioned you don't tank because you don't like that idea of like, man, I don't want to mess up the route. But if you find people that you can make mistakes with, that's 1, how you get over that mentality, and 2, just get better as a player, because everybody messes up. Everybody in the top guilds in the world, the top M+ teams, the top PvP teams, makes really bonehead mistakes all the time, especially me. But it doesn't matter, because eventually the consistency of being good is what being good actually is.
Yeah, I like the better players are always the one that are like testing their character's limits, like to arguably suicidal degrees. Like,
my favorite
can I cloak
time,
this?
Yup, that's exactly what I was about to say. My favorite time when I'm playing Rogue or DK is seeing a mechanic going, huh, can I AMZ that? And then or AMS, I guess. And I stand at it and die, and I'm like, well, nope. But I look like a total shitter because now I'm dead on the floor licking the pavement.
Yeah.
But if I could have AMS that, I would have looked like a total genius. And the only way I can know is by testing it out.
Yeah, it cracks me up seeing classes that have that like limit testing ability, like be dead, because you something like for our guild specifically, you'll hear them and again me because I.e. rogue, will go like I'll be dead. I'll go like yep.
It is very fun hearing a warrior mumble to themselves, and then you see them die, and you're like, "Were you testing spell reflect?" And they go, "Mm-hmm."
Yep.
And that's the thing, is that when you find a group that you can make mistakes with, they'll know what you were trying to do. They're not going to call you a dumbass shitter. They might just to joke with you.
But that's for fun.
Yeah, that's just because we're making fun of each other. But if you're dead and we know what you died to, and you're like, oh, we could have pieced it together. You could have never said anything. We'd be like, oh, you're a testing spell reflect or AMS or cloak or ice block or whatever. Like that's pretty easy to pick out. So finding that group of people that you can make that mistake with is so key to getting out of the pug mouse wheel.
Yeah, and another benefit to like being in a consistent group, like as a healer, like if you're a healer and you find a consistent like raid or dungeon team, like the skill, the like how to put this, the output that you have is like immensely different as if you went in a group that or like a pug group, and not just because like, oh well, the pugs take more damage. No. The difference is that you know who's gonna be taking that damage. So like as a druid or a priest, as you know, like in terms of hots and shields or bubbles rather, you can, you know, you're like, okay, the melee, I know they're gonna take an extra tick of this like thing to get off a global. So you bubble them or you hot them before the mechanic happens. Like it's like stuff like that you're not gonna get in a pug. You literally can't. I mean,
I remember getting my from you. I would get my second beacon of shame for playing hunter. Like, all right, one on the tank and then one on fucking you because you're gonna explode if the wind blows. Like,
yeah, like the wind blows too hard, or like Denathrius looks at you funny. Yeah, like
or even just I remember the Holy Pally Mastery, right? Healing people more the closer they are to you.
Yeah,
and fuck it, your range. Well, and it also gives like that's that enabling thing because now Matt as the hunter doesn't need to stay close to melee to make sure he gets healed. He can go fuck off into Narnia and do whatever the hell he wants. He's still going to get healed, and he doesn't need to sit there worried that he's just not going to get healed. Because we put our heads together and figured out the best solution for playing. So now when Matt fucks off and misdirects something and then ends up getting casted at because it didn't work, then he's not going to just die.
Exactly. And like for like a great example is in we're doing Blackrock Foundry. And I remember I don't remember the fight name because I am horrible with encounter names. But the fight with the boat, if any of you can remember that name of the.
Is it the council fight with the three orcs? Yeah, I don't remember what it's called. It's like mistresses of something.
Sure. Yeah, it could be freaking the dock boys for all I know. I don't know. But yeah, so that fight there was a mechanic that all like in my guild we have 3 rogues. And we did disc priests who knew that they had to rotate bubbles on the 2 tanks and the 3 rogues, because they knew all 3 of us were going to take that extra tick, like of that thing, so that we could do more damage. So after like I think it was like 2 raids, all the me and the other 2 rogues like realized that they knew this was happening. So we like pushed it further. We stayed until the bubble would go off, and then we'd take that another tick, and then we would go, and then we would fuck off. And I remember him. I remember him, the priest, him going, guys, come on. And like, what? You're helping us out. We're doing more damage. Like, thanks, man. Good looking out. And he's like, oh, DPS players.
Well, and that's the mentality too, right? Like a great healer like will still do that, and it's fun to make fun of the DPS players too. But like in terms of like optimally killing the thing, that might be the correct play.
As a healer, I have no problem if you taking damage. I don't care as long as you don't die. Then what's the issue? I can just heal you real quick, like 1 holy shock and you're full health, or livable health rather. And if you know an AoE isn't coming, well then I'm not healing you, and that's fine. Like that's okay because you're not gonna be dead. Like so it doesn't matter. Like I always I argue, I encourage our DPS players to that if they think or they know that they can survive this mechanic, to get like 1 or 2 globals off, to just take the mechanic. But of course, if they die, well, then they know they shouldn't have done that. But then they learn. Now they know that thing. Or
now they know.
Yeah.
And also on that topic, then how did like, I'm sure we've all met a million healers more than not that would look at that and go, oh, DPS players, and might even have the mentality of, you know what, if you do that again, I'm just gonna let him die.
Oh, dude, the god complex that some healers like obtain can go eat my ass. My god, no, that shit is outrageous. Like, hey, Brian, you like shouldn't do that. Like, oh, what, because you had to heal me? What else were you doing? You want to bet that your Moonfire Global does less than any of my moves? Yeah, trust me, that our globals, that global exchange that we just did, worth it. Trust, worth.
I would bet that a lot of that mentality resides in pugs who are traumatized, especially from this last expansion, maybe a little bit of BFA, but especially Shadowlands, because they feel that there's got to be a good portion of those pug healers who feel pressure to get their DPS numbers up, because some shitty DPS or some shitty tank put it in their mind at some point that, like, if you're not also doing a ton of damage, then we're not playing optimally and we're never going to finish this +3 in time. So I'm sure some portion of them maybe aren't god complex, but are just like, man, if I can't get some Moonfires or Sunfires peppered in, they're going to yell at me.
Well, and that's even the thing to go on about the idea of the meta, right? The meta healer at the top end, right? This is for the top end players. What you see the best M pluses, best raiders playing is almost always determined by how much damage they do. But for basically everyone else, the amount of damage that, I don't know, Mistweaver does compared to Resto Shaman is usually pretty negligible for, like, I would say well over 99% of the player base.
For sure.
But at the same time, then there's that pug mentality of, oh, well, you're not the meta healer. You're not playing Holy Priest in Season 3, so I don't want you in my group. So then you've got, you know, a bunch of mad Mistweavers that never get invited to anything. And that's equally ridiculous to that god complex thing.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, and I believe that's completely right. How, like, this all obviously is like they have had past experience with some X, Y, and Z person, like whether telling them they're bad or like aggressively telling them they're bad, like, or like some traumatic experience where, like, yeah, now they have, like, now they're stressed out. They feel like they have to do this thing, that thing, you know, X, Y, Z to be quote unquote good. And yeah, no, pugging sucks, dude. The game community, I love gamers. I love gamers, dude. It's insane. Like, I don't know what like happened to people when they sit down with their computer and they forget that other people exist. Like, that there's a character behind that tune.
You know, that does kind of strike the idea that I think most people forming pug groups don't actually think of the other 4 people as humans.
No, like,
they're
just
NPCs. Tools to get whatever the hell the person making the group wants.
Yeah. Like, it really sucks. Like, and back, like, you know, to really take this back, you know, to 45 minutes ago, that's why our guild is so unique.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that, like, here's a term I didn't think I was going to use today. Our retention rate is insane. Like, the fact
I can think of maybe 5 people who didn't outright, not even that. Actually, I can think of 3 people who didn't outright quit the game who, like, have left our guild.
Yeah, who've, like, went to go do other WoW things.
Yeah, I can think of, like, 3.
Literally, like, yeah, exactly. Like, everyone else who's left our guild, or not even our guild, but who stopped playing WoW, that's, like, that was the reason they're not in our raid team, was they stopped playing WoW. Like, they were fed up with X, Y, and Z from, like, the game. It wasn't because of our guild, as far as I know, anyway. So, like, it's insane. Like, it's very unique. It's very rare that this group could even exist. And every like, you know, few years, I get reminded of that when we get, like, you know, we get a new trial in, and they mention how. They mentioned how, like, oh, this is, like, really weird. Like, they always end up telling us about their, like, traumatic experiences, like, on, like, previous kills, whether it just be their last one or, like, their ones the big one, if you will, that made them not want to join any guilds at all. Like, and then they came to us, and now they never leave. Like, they're here effectively forever.
I think a lot of that's the mentality. Like, to put a lesson to what we've been saying, is that adopting these good mentalities, right? Whether it's in the game or outside the game, in terms of like finding people that you can fuck up with, finding people that you can be better than, always trying to become the great player, not just the good player. That's kind of what we strive for. And now that we've gotten there, we've got our sort of, you know, community that we've built around it. I think that if other people just did this more, then there'd be more of us. But I whenever you said we were unique, I think that's kind of the reason of it, is we live our principles, as it were.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, yeah, like you're like, I mean, like you literally just said, a lot of people don't understand what it takes to be a great player. It's not that you're rank 1 on any meter. It's that you're not a shithead as a person. Because like by default, if you're like, I don't know, just paying attention. If you're wary of your team's like mentals at that time, you know what they're doing. You know like okay, like they're you know, like say me, right? Like I know, or someone, or like our tank will knows that like I'm having like a shitty day. Like before we started doing dungeons, like I was complaining about work. I was clearly like tired, by like really wanted to do dungeons. So he knows, and he's gonna not put me on the kick order as much, or he's gonna cover my back, like for all those things. It's happened plethora of times, and after the raid, after the dungeon, he always messages me like, "Hey, like you okay? Like you good?" And yeah, and like it's those things. Like that's a great tanker and a great player, and people don't think about that shit, dude.
Even aside, you reminded me of a specific scenario on Prototype Pantheon when we were progressing it. I was playing Havoc Demon Hunter, which, if you know anything about Season 3 Havoc DH, it was all about a single target dot that we could put on a thing. And because of that, I was killing the kick target too fast. So it was something as simple as like, yeah, I'm reliable for the kick, but he's still better if I just like put him somewhere else and let the damage spread out. And the next pull, we killed it. Just being able to read your raiders and understand what they're about is such a big deal in terms of like keeping everyone's spirits high. Like just even with jokes, right? Like some people just need a good laugh.
Especially after like, I don't know, like 5 wipes in a row to like some silly ass mechanic. Like whether it be like one person messing up, or like we just couldn't get this rotation fast enough, or X, Y, Z, right? You know, you need that, like, you need that person to be like, well, that was shit, in it. Like, you know, and then boom, done. Or, you know, a couple people like laugh and break the tension that's in the air just because, you know, shit happens, right?
That's definitely the biggest takeaway that I think a lot of people take too seriously, at least in pugs, is that like sometimes shit just happens, you know. I've been there. I've been in the pug scenario where you've got your 15 key and you desperately want to complete it for your vault reward or your keystone master or whatever, and then someone bricks it, and now you're just out your key. It feels a lot worse because you feel like now you have to work so much harder to get back to where you were. But that's where friends come in, because we've also been in a situation where we as a group bricked that 15 key that we all needed for our KSM or whatever, and we're like, damn it. All right, well, let's go to another dungeon and get back to where we were. And just being able to understand that everyone makes mistakes all back to this. Everyone makes mistakes. You just got to accept that that's what happens.
It's definitely tough sometimes helping people who are unable to find a group of friends or a guild or something. Maybe they have just like a terribly inconsistent schedule. They're an adult with kids and a really weird job, so you know they can't even be consistent and find good raid times. Or they're a kid who has high school and then tons of after school activities that all meet on different days and at different times of the year, and so they're struggling a lot. So it's really hard to give them advice when, you know, I always want to tell people, like, play whatever class you like. Even if the talents you pick aren't the meta, are they the ones where you do the most damage or keep the group alive the most consistently? Then they're good talents. Like, pick the thing that you're going to have fun with and that you think works. But it's so hard to do that when they're not forced to pug, but pugging is just the most natural thing they can do. And they kind of get stuck with a bunch of asshats who are like only meta, or, you know, those classic people who will take an MDI team and be like, if I'm not replicating that exactly, I can't finish my +7 in time. So I could definitely see how that could be discouraging, but obviously the good old mantra of just find some friends. Even if you can find 2 or 3 people who tend to get on at the same time of day as you, you're bound to have a much better time than pugging forever.
Absolutely. Switching gears a little bit entirely. I guess not entirely, because this sort of leads into Dragonflight, right? The new expansion's right around the corner, 2 weeks away at the time of recording, and there's a lot of people that are going to be looking for groups, looking for guilds. Use this advice, please. Find friends, find people you can mess up with, get better at the game, enjoy yourself, go for whatever goal you want to set as a group. And if you personally want something that the group doesn't want, then that's okay. That's when you're allowed to branch out, right? Like, growth is always accepted, and if people don't accept you for growing, then they're not people that are like-minded to you.
Yeah, find a different group. Find a different person. Whatever.
But with Dragonflight around the corner, we've got obviously our guild that we're going to be working with. I mean, what other prep are you guys up to? Because I know I've got basically a week off for Dragonflight launch. I know me and Brian had made some plans to do some all-night leveling. What else is on the table?
I now have those days off as well, so I will be able to stick around. I don't have the day of launch, but obviously I don't work till the wee hours of the night, so I'll be home partying with you guys for 2 or 3 days in a row.
If you want to
trying to hit max.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Brian. It's 3:00 Pacific time that it comes out on Monday. So then it's 6:00 our time, Matt. We're in EST.
Yeah,
so...
well, I'll be home long before that. I will have picked up supplies, some chips, some DiGiorno pizzas, I don't drink soda, but if I admitted on here that I drank 4 gallons of milk a week, I think people would be concerned, so I won't admit that. Instead, I drink water or something that people drink.
We're going to address that at another time, because that's not okay, but we'll talk about that later.
You know what? We got milk chugging, tree fucking. We're all about that.
Holy shit. I'm in.
All right, by the way, petition to rename the guild Milk Chugging Tree Fucking.
Petition to make merch that says milk chugging on the front and then tree fucking on the back.
Write that down.
Any talented artists want to hit us up with that?
Our first merch shop. That's it. That's our first merch shop right there.
I'm already on it. I'm opening Photoshop as we speak.
It's already done. Here it is. Anyway.
Yeah.
No other prep though. I tried out Evoker, and I tried out the new race Drakthir. They were both interesting, but I don't think either one is necessarily for me. I'm excited to see if anyone in the guild decides to play one, and if so, how they play it and how that turns out. They have a lot of cool little abilities. But outside of that, what are you guys doing? What sort of prep stuff are you doing to get ready for the next expansion?
You know, on that note though of Drakthir, I've been really toying around with it because I played a lot of beta. I'm the resident beta tester, and I really didn't like Evoker on the beta. But I'll be honest, I'm a bit of an idiot and probably didn't understand it fully. So whenever I got babied through the starting zone and they kind of taught me how to play it, I guess full disclosure, I also didn't do the starting zone on beta. I just made a level 71 and hoped I would figure it out. But after playing it, I'm kind of into it. But there are some things that really bug me about that class. That 25-yard range isn't it. Even just doing simple dungeons where you think you're in range because you've gotten used to playing other classes and then you're definitely not is pretty tilting. But I might main ult it. I know I mentioned earlier, I definitely am leveling Shaman first. To go from Shadowland Shaman to Dragonflight is going to be a miracle.
Yeah, let's see. For prep, I have that whole week off. I have from that... If my current schedule is the way it is for the week that I requested off, I will have Sunday off. So I'll have the day before the patch drop all the way through till the next Tuesday. So I have a solid 9 days? Question mark? Math? 8 days?
Yeah, I guess I didn't mention my prep, but I'll be working 2 of those 9 days. But otherwise, I've got all that area off. I'm gonna be fortressed up. I'm gonna have my little pillow fort where it says "No girls allowed" on a piece of paper with a tape stuck to it, and then I'm just gonna fill that bitch with Mountain Dew and Doritos and other things gamers eat.
Dude, yeah, I've been prepping for lack of a better term, the menu for like that whole week. Like we're doing Vietnamese pork belly. We're doing white trash tacos. We're having chicken Alfredo. We're gonna have shrimp
I
Alfredo.
don't want you to get too far away with this, but what is a white trash taco?
Oh, dude,
Wait, can I guess?
absolutely.
Is it very similar to white people taco night, where you just sort of get like the little taco mix from the store and you put it on some very blandly seasoned ground beef and you make a little taco bar and there's some hard shells and some soft shells and some shredded lettuce? Like, is it like that, or
Yes. Being a chef by trade, it's a little more than that, but that's the base. That's where it started. Like, I'm gonna make my own pico. I'm gonna do a fire roasted salsa. I'm gonna do a tomatillo salsa. Like, it's.
Well, then I'm gonna pull up on a greasy wife beater. Can call me white trash. I'm coming to that.
Dude, it's white trash tacos is one of my favorite things in the entire world. Like,
Also, calling that white trash tacos from now on.
dude, it's what it is. It's perfect. Anyway, so I got I got menus for the whole thing. I'm getting a bunch of Uncrustables. I got like you guys heard of like Liquid IV? Like, that stuff is like so good, dude. And like it's one of those things where I didn't really believe the hype. Like, 3 times hydration. Like, what could that even mean? Like, fuck you, I'm just drinking 3 glasses of water, right? No, it works. All right, it's great. Maybe it's placebo. I don't even care. All I know, it works for me, and that's all that matters. So I got a bunch of that. I got a bunch of root beer. Hold up, I literally have my prep list right next to me. Hold up.
Oh, this guy got a list.
Dude,
Dude, I'm ready to just fuck it up, Natty. But you're here with you're planned out.
No, like chef mode kicked in for sure. I even have Advil for
dealing with you people?
for the 36 hours of being awake, and all I have 2 cases of Monster coming. I got a bunch of gum. I got just to keep so my mouth's moving, so my brain's like still moves. I don't fucking fall asleep at the wheel, if you will. Like, I got a bunch of sunflower seeds. Like, dude, whole night. I got a variety of energy drinks too. I not only do I have Monsters, I have Kickstarts. I got some fucking, again, like Voltage in terms of soda. I got Voltage. I got Mountain Dew. I got root beer. You guys heard of Pepsi Nitro?
I have not. What is Pepsi Nitro?
It's, I guess, Pepsi's version of an energy drink or something.
That sounds disgusting. I'll be honest, I fucking hate Pepsi.
I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't prefer Pepsi. It's not bad. I don't prefer it. But this Nitro stuff, it fucks.
I'm planting a flag. I'm a Coca-Cola drinker.
Well, yeah,
That
same.
being said, I drink way too much Mountain Dew, so I guess I'm like a double agent going over to Pepsi products.
Dun dun dun. Yeah, no, I'm so ready for this week. I would argue I've over prepped.
Probably.
Like, and that you rather this way than the other way, right? Oh, I got fruit snacks, bruh.
Oh, hell yeah.
Bruh.
So to provide a little bit of context, I remember you, me, and another guildmate, Colton, we were planning on doing 24 hours of staying up and playing Shadowlands when it dropped. And it almost worked. I think we were up for about 16 hours because we all hit level 60, and then something broke. Something catastrophic was bugged, and then we all just logged off.
Yeah, if that bug didn't happen, we would have kept going easily.
Yeah, because I remember there were 2 or 3 like game-breaking bugs that we ran into in Shadowlands that we just muscled our way through. That honestly, if we weren't like dedicated, we probably would have just given up.
Yeah, no, that was horrific. If I was doing a solo, I would have just went to bed. Like, those they were fucking really annoying.
So on the topic of classes we're leveling, like I said, Shaman. Brian, you're doing Rogue.
Yes, sir.
And then Matt, you're doing Druid.
You know it.
Do you guys have main alts planned? Are you just gonna fuck around with one character? What's the deal?
My current plan is my main ult to be my pally for that when that eventually happens. Inevitably,
Yeah.
It's gonna happen. Like, probably everyone who's playing, Preservation Evoker is gonna be like, yeah, I don't really like it, and they're all gonna be like, instead of like switching to another healer, they're just gonna go DPS, and then I'll be like, all right, guess I'm healing now. Cool. Aside from that, I don't know. Like, cause I say this every expansion. I pray to fuck. It is a quote unquote alt friendly expansion. I just want to play multiple tunes, especially because I guess I want a PvP. Like, I want to play because if it's alt friendly, that I could have I can have multiple tunes, or and here's the best part about it being all F friendly for everybody. If they don't want to fucking play, they can log the fuck off and do other things.
That's really great. That's going to be another topic I'm going to bring up. Is just the people one gaming WoW. That's a different topic for a different time.
Yeah, that's true.
But I think for myself, I'm really starting to lean on Evoker. But Rogue has been a ton of fun. DK has been a lot of fun for me. DH is actually a little upsetting. Mentioned I main DH in Season 3, so I can deal with some bad class design, but the fact that Momentum is now a maintenance buff really does upset me. And I mean, I used to rag on DHs for being easy. That class is, at least the current good talent build, is not easy anymore. It's a lot of complicated movement and rotational cooldowns you got to keep track of.
Yeah, I don't have anything lined up outside of Druid. I mean, I might default to Hunter, but I have nothing picked out. I'm looking forward to seeing what rises to the top of the most fun, or just the most brain dead, so I can run around and do a bunch of damage and just have like a farming ult or something. So mostly sticking to Druid. I'm just gonna switch between the specs. One day kitty cat, one day healer. You know how it is.
Yeah.
Now, I guess it's kind of nice because we all play different classes at least, but personal loot's going away. That's actually been kind of a big discussion we've been having, is what the hell to do as a guild, because when personal loot became the only option in BFA, we just sort of dealt with it, because in Legion we did master loot, but once we did personal loot, we just kind of let it be. But with group loot being the only option now, that's kind of the same decision we came to, is we're just sort of letting it be. But I don't know. Do you guys think gearing's going to be easier, harder? Like in terms of time spent, like a number of weeks before you're geared, quote unquote.
I'm really not excited about if personal loot isn't around. The game, like I always like hold my breath for like when the game officially releases, kind of thing. Like I know I know a lot of people like keep on the beta, all stuff like that, and there's all like random outcries of X, Y, and Z. Oh, my class got nerfed by 30%. Like, doesn't Blizzard know what they're doing? Yeah, but if you actually played the beta, they were 45% above everyone else. So 30% nerf.
Let me actually jump in there. I've been playing a lot of Enhancement Shaman. They ate that 25% nerf to the chin. I gotta be real. When I went to the Shaman Discord, the amount of people with the little newbie leaf next to their name showing that they had just joined the server complaining, versus the amount of moderators that were like, guys, do you have any idea how good Enhancement Shaman was? It is really funny. Like, I have a lot of faith in Blizzard to balance this, even not just numerically, obviously the loot as well. Like, that they're making the correct decisions. But, oh man, just the people's just complete on education seems a little mean.
Well, it's blissful ignorance.
Yeah, that they're kind of living in a world where they just don't have complete information. They don't actually know why this decision was made. They just think Blizzard hates them.
Yeah, like it's one of those problems that, like, no, it's not just obviously WoW related, but like in life, like you have X, Y, and Z thing looks bad, no further research. Like they take everything at face value. Like if they like just dove one layer, they peeled one layer back of this fucked up onion, they'll see exactly why it happened.
Absolutely.
And they'll be like, oh, yeah, all right.
Yeah. So Brian, you mentioned you weren't terribly excited. Matt, what are your thoughts on the group loot situation?
I don't know. I like anything that will keep us from not being able to trade simple stuff. Like, I'm playing Resto and I happen to get a really good Ellie trinket or something weird like that, or something that would just be better for Ellie, or even just an upgrade for you. And whoops, I can't trade it because it's 2 eye levels higher than the thing I had equipped. So guess I'll equip that, and then we'll stare at this get not used. So anything that we can move towards that lets me just freely give things to people, I'm pretty happy with.
I gotta say, I'm definitely pretty. I think I've changed. Before I was a little bit more kind of basically exactly in line with you, Brian. But now I'm a little happier that it's here because of situations like there was a trinket in Sepulcher that all the healers wanted because it was really good for them, and it was like fine for caster DPS, but nobody really cared. But the only way to get it was to roll as a caster DPS spec, and it took a while for healers to be able to even get access to it. I think like Mistweavers had a problem rolling for it at all, along with Holy Paladins. So like,
Yeah, I got
needing
mine at
people
the
to
end in a
trade it.
fucking normal run. I got mine in the
Yeah.
achievement run.
Yeah, like it was brutal. But if it's a case where it drops and I'm playing LA Shaman and Matt's on balance and I don't know, for whatever reason we're the only ranged and we know that you want it, we can just pass, then it's like that pseudo master looter deal. I really like that that's around. Although it does make our jobs as the officers of the guild and officers and guild master of the guild to manage loot and make sure, because people get really passionate about loot. I mean, it happens. It's been a part of the game forever. It's why DKP, as terrible of a system as that was even invented, was to just make people not mad when loot goes to certain people. Which actually, to rewind it all the way back, find people of similar mentality to you. If somebody gets mad when you get loot that is an upgrade for you, then like, I don't get it. Like, you should be happy that your friends are getting things that they want.
Yeah, and I completely understand that like wow, like their die is loaded. Like, what the fuck? They've gotten 6 pieces, I've gotten none. Like that. Yeah, I understand where you would like feel kind of bad, or this weapon drops as like it's the rank 1 weapon for you, and it's like 3rd for them, but they won the roll, right? It's like I can obviously understand, like, okay, that kind of sucks, but that person's gonna they're gonna use it well either way. So like,
yeah,
whoopie-doo.
I think there's a key distinction to qualify my statement. Being frustrated that you're not getting loot is fine, right? Like, we've all been there where you're like, man, dude, I really would like to, have the same gear level as my friends so that we can all participate in the same shit. But I'm talking people who like start guild drama and start thinking people are playing favorites because loot's going to certain places, and will ruin friendships over the loot.
Oh yeah,
that's more what I'm talking about.
Can't believe that stuff happens. Till this day, I can't believe that stuff happens.
A funny anecdote is back at BFA when there was Titan forging, our favorite mechanic. There was a top guild. I can't remember what ranking they were. They were like top 50 world. Like, they were really, really good. And they had this trial warrior that had highest possible item level with a socket pants drop, and he could trade them because he already had highest item level, but he didn't have a socket. So he wanted to keep them, but the guild rules were like, cool, if it's an upgrade, it goes up for like master loot discussion if you can trade it, because this guild is really good. They wanted to go to the best player, and this guy killed his trial by saying, "No, I'm going to keep these. They're an upgrade." And that mentality like really boggles my mind. If you're joining a guild, like a group of like-minded people, or at least the goal is that they're like-minded, that shouldn't even be a question. Because if it's going to be a huge upgrade for someone who's working as hard as you are, then you should never feel bad about them getting an upgrade.
Yeah, loot's insane. Loot's insane. I remember when we swapped to, when I like convinced the guild, because obviously in Legion when we were first founded, we were personal loot, or whatever the fuck it was at the time, and then we were like things were taking so long to like die because like the people who their output wasn't as good as like some other players had like loaded dice, right? So they would get all the gear, and some people were like, upset's the wrong word, but obviously they were frustrated they weren't getting gear, and it's personally like whatever, right? So I advocated for switching to a master loot system, where we could not like I don't like funneling gear. That's not like something I ever like to do. Rather not just like as a raid leader, guild, whatever the fuck. Like I don't like that idea of just like funneling one person loot. But the idea is still that you can put like the loot on places that will like benefit the most. So but that only works if the guild's goal is to clear the content as fast as possible, or relatively quickly. So I brought it up with the officers. The officers were down after like I want to say like 4 hours of discussion. Like it was a long time. And then after we talked with the officers, we brought it to the rest of the raid, or the rest of the guild. And this, like, I cannot stress enough, like, this is no exaggeration. It took 3 separate sessions that were 9 hours long each to be able to convince this group of like 4 people to agree.
Oh yeah, I mean,
Dude.
to use your words, loot's insane.
Loot
And
is
I get
insane.
it. I love getting loot. The point of playing this game is to make your guy big, number go up is fun, right? I'm right there with everybody. But the idea that you would bring your friends down to try to make yourself a little bit better is a little, it's kind of shitty.
It's pretty shitty. Like I would argue it's like insulting.
And it really is, and this is where other people being humans matters. Like they're gonna remember that. They're going to put that in their mind, and that doesn't mean that they're gonna hold a grudge against you. It just means that if you're gonna keep doing it, eventually they're gonna kick you out.
Exactly. I never expect any of our raiders to be like, how do I put this? Completely selfless. Like, oh, I no gear for me forever. Like, I'm gonna give everything to everyone else. And to be fair, there are at least 3 people in the guild I can think of right now that are that way. And bless their hearts, but they're getting gear. Or rather, they better be getting gear. Like, I don't expect anyone to be selfless. I expect everyone to want to get geared. Like, I don't like in no world do I expect everyone to just like pass everything, right? Even if they know they're not like a top performer, like, oh, like Ben can use this weapon, so I'm gonna pass on it because I know like he'll do more out of it. Like, well, okay, I appreciate the thought, but for love of God, roll for it. We're a casual guild. We raid heroic. Like, we raid 4 hours a week. Like, we're as the name implies, we're very serious about raiding, but it's only 4 hours, and we're all friends. Like, the goal is to do the things like in a timely fashion, but while having fun doing it. You know, like it's not that serious.
Right, and I think we're at the end of that filter, like I mentioned previously, where the group of people raiding here doesn't want to take this game that seriously, and we are so much better for it in terms of like our health as a friend group and the guild, just because we're able to look past silly shit like loot or random personal drama to actually show up those 4 hours a week and get shit done.
Yeah, completely agree.
What I was thinking about this for a little while. What do you guys think is better about leading a more casual guild, and what do you think you're missing out on by not getting to lead a, cutting edge mythic guild? Is there anything that stands out to you, or something like, you miss from being in the top 100, or you're like, oh, thank goodness I don't have to deal with that anymore kind of stuff?
Let me jump in first, because obviously, Brian, you're guild master. So I imagine you've got some pretty, and you've gone higher in this game than I have. So I imagine you've got more thoughts specific. But the main thing that I think we're missing is just like that progress, right? Like we don't have aspirations for mythics, we just don't. But that's also something we're kind of gaining, because when we're done with heroic and we do our achievement run, we take a break and we go play other games. We play the new Call of Duty that came out. We play League of Legends, unfortunately, with each other. Whatever, we split off and play any game that anyone wants to play. We'll all mix and match with each other. Some people fall off the planet, and then they're right back with us as soon as the next raid tier comes out. But in terms of like what we're good missing out on is the egos. The egos are so prevalent in these middling mythic guilds, where you've got people that are only out for themselves. They're incredibly selfish. This is that attitude we've been railing against this entire time, that I need the gear because I'm the best player, and I'm going to show these idiots that I'm the greatest, and they wouldn't be anywhere without me. That kind of shit, leave that at the door, right? We might be serious in terms of how we organize everything, but we are casual in terms of what our goals are and how we want you to raid.
Yeah, let's see, dude. Oh man, what are we missing? Yeah, the egos for sure is I'm glad we don't have them. Being that again, I mentioned earlier, I'm a chef by trade, so I've worked with a large variety of people, we could say, and there's definitely a part of me where like line cooks are very similar to mythic raiders, like in my head. Like, it's a very like clear one-to-one in a lot of the things that like they do in terms of the way they think. Which is super interesting. So and that's the, like Ben said, it's the like this guild, just a stepping stone. Like I'm gonna be like in limit one day. Like you guys are nothing. Like I'm just here to collect gear, get that orange parse and or rank 1 parse or whatever, and then as soon as I get it, I'm gonna take a screenshot. I'm gonna get the link. I'm gonna send it over to the next stepping stone, and then I'm gonna just say nothing, leave you guys, and boom, done. Like I'm gone. See ya. So I don't miss being stepping stones, or a stepping stone in people's like ladder to world first.
Yeah, they're grind to the top.
Yeah, I don't miss that. With that being said, if I like, and I've encouraged many of our raiders that were the top performers, if you will, that if they wanted to do that, if that's what they wanted to get out of WoW, that I would help them absolutely. Like in no world would I like as the guildmaster be like, I would not crush your dreams if or like, because it's manipulative, right? Like say Cliff one day wanted to be like, hey, I want to go raid, I want to be king of Ship Mountain. And like, are you okay with that? Like, yeah. I will help you get there. Like, no doubt, I'll work with you directly. We'll figure it out. Like, I still have contacts. I guess they're considered contacts. I still have contacts in like the top 100 like scene. There's still like a lot of the people that I raid with before are still fucking raiding. Like they're like some of them are gone higher, some of them have gone lower. The point is, if any of us want it, or if any of our raid wanted, like even our rank 1 top performers, I would not hold them back, right? But yeah, the egos is a lot. With that being said, I do kind of miss them. Like, that's a hot take. I do miss a bit of the ego, because it was fun to like, there's that like primal like competition, like like there's like, because those people are always fighting. Like they're like not like verbally or whatever, but they're always like itching to be like rank 1. They're always like that, like the just pure blood instinct to like do better and to perform better, not not as guild, but as on a personal level. Is it's again a hot take. It's kind of I miss it a little bit. I don't miss it a lot. Like as the guildmaster, I don't miss it at all. As the guildmaster, as just a raider, I miss it. Yeah, I miss it a bit. Let's see what's good though. Yeah, no, this the fact that we can log off is huge. Like, and that's really what's made our guild, our community, like a thing. Like if we like tried to be mythic raiders, or like if we tried to as Ben coined earlier, to one game WoW, that our guild wouldn't exist the way it is now. Just straight up, it wouldn't. It'd be insane. Like, what? So the fact that we like take breaks, like as soon as the tier's over, we like people unsub, dude. Like, I can name 5 people right now that the millisecond we like take the screenshot for like them like to get on the meta mount, they unsub and like leave, and we don't see them for like next 4 months. And I respect the fuck out of it. Like, good for you. Like, good for you, dude. But yeah, so this guild has traversed many games. Like, my god, like I think 14 people. Like, I think that was the peak of like them playing Final Fantasy 14. Like, we have like Ben said, we have like the 6 or so of us that all play the new COD. The list could literally go on like forever. We've like whoever someone wants to do.
I mean, we've played League of Legends, fucking StarCraft 2. There's at least 3 of us that play, even though that game's dead as fuck. The other shooters, Apex. You Brian, you've played with a couple people doing Apex. Warzone, obviously, we got into for a little while. You got me into it. Like, I didn't even play shooters, and you got me back into it.
Yeah, and it's the.
Speaking of which, new Warzone out.
That's right. Yeah, like that is the best part about not being serious and more casual. Is like I believe we're all much closer as people for it. Like, eventually we're gonna do a guild meetup, like a full guild meetup, where I'm just gonna send literally everyone an address. Here's the date. Good luck.
It'll be some dead drop. We show up and there's just There's just a rat race puzzle that you set up across the nation for us.
Oh my god, imagine. But like, yeah, like I've eventually, like, that'd be super cool. And I know, like, a minimum 15 people are showing up. Like, minimum. Like, I'm super stoked, dude. And that's a bond I don't believe that we would have been able to make if we were a WoW only guild or a community. Like, I don't think there's any way, because we're not Mythic Raiders. Like, because we're all like good enough where if our goal is just to clear heroic, then what else are we doing? You know, like, how are we a WoW only guild? What else are we doing? Like, what's going on here? We're gonna clear it for the 15th time on like the 9th tune? Why? Why?
I definitely agree with like the best thing easily being that we do such a diverse range of stuff together, and it's not even always video games. Sometimes we'll just pick 6 people and just be like, we're playing D&D for a few months until we get bored of that, and then we're gonna go over here and do this other thing. Like, it's definitely, for me, the best thing is how open we are to doing other activities that aren't WoW. I have had too many friends that I didn't realize that we weren't friends until after we stopped doing the thing we were doing together. Like, you know, we would play Magic the Gathering together, and then we would both stop playing Magic for a while, and I just wouldn't talk to that person anymore. And I didn't even realize that we weren't really friends. We were just those kids in, you know, high school that had gym class together, and we didn't hate each other. So now we're friends, but when the semester's over, I'm not talking to you ever again. Like, that kind of friend. So it's really cool that our guild is able to bond over lots of different stuff and lots of different fandoms and anime and WoW and other nerd shit. It's pretty cool. The only thing I kind of wish I could do once in a while, but I think is just made up in my head, is every once in a while I'm like, man, if these 8 people had like 25 more eye level like the rest of us, I think we would just insta-kill this boss and I wouldn't have to worry about it.
Oh, for sure.
But then it just goes right back into the feedback loop of like, but we're such a casual guild that it's so nice that I will never have to be like having a serious discussion with like, okay, who do we need to bench? We're a mythic only, so we have to bench these two people for this fight because it's only 20 man. I love that there's never that concern. Everyone just show up, play whatever you want. Let's just have fun. Let's kill the boss. Let's get some loot, get some mogs, get some mounts, and get out of here. Like that. It's just so reassuring, you know.
Yeah, I could do like a 4-hour video of just talking about the experiences I've had, like in a mythic guild environment as an officer, about having, because you needed to maintain your 20, right? But you also needed 5 more. Like, a healthy mythic guild, quote unquote, was 25 people. But like, clearly that's a problem, right? Like, but then 5 people don't always get to raid. Yeah, and that sucks, but that's how you do it. Because yeah, like, shit happens, right? Someone gets sick. Someone like couldn't make it that day. Like, shit happens. Like, IRL over a game all the time, like, no matter what, right? So then you needed to have an active bench that kept up on their gear. Like, they needed to be motivated to like still like do Mythic Plus, to do dungeons, to do other alternative ways to gear besides raid, or they, you know, like you ask them to go pug, like like what, you know, like maintaining that was always, I think, like I didn't remember it until you brought it up, but like that's actually, now thinking about it, that is the one thing I don't miss the most.
I could not imagine a situation where where I'm doing like 8 15s a week, maybe even some PvP just to make sure I get those gear slots. I'm doing heroic raid with like an alt raid or just pugging it or something, to be number 25 and wondering, even though I'm putting in the same amount, if not more work than the other people, am I gonna be able to play this week? Like, am I gonna be able to tell people I beat the mythic raid, I'm cutting edge, or am I gonna have to skate around it and be like, yeah, so my guild's cutting edge, the guild I'm in is cutting edge, I don't have the achievement, don't look though, because I'm number 25 and I never get rotated in. I couldn't imagine being in that situation.
No, and it was always really painful. Like, that was because like like again from the opposite perspective, is it really sucked because you knew like some was like the 22, 23, like you knew they put in the effort, you knew they really wanted to be there, but like their class maybe didn't apply the raid buff we needed. Like say we only had one unholy DK, or rather we had two unholy DKs, but their buffs don't overlap, and the other guy does so much more than you. If we're doing prog, I'm not bringing you.
Goodness, that is another thing that I don't miss in the slightest. Is imagining that 21st person, right? Let's just say that they play rogue, right? But especially in the past, they didn't provide a buff at all, and they might be the only rogue on your roster. But for whatever other reason, you have to bring a warrior who is significantly worse than this rogue because they bring battle shout.
Yeah. No, that stuff was heartbreaking. To be like, hey, I know you're really dedicated, and I appreciate the hell out of you. Sorry, I'm not bringing you this week.
But like, you got to sit on this bench, warm that shit up for us, good.
Yeah, and that's why it was always like so that then you always had 5 players rotating like through like just the guild, like, and of course a good officer team will rotate in those players like every so and so, but that's the thing, they almost never get to be in prog. Like it's very rare that you don't have the same, like if the same 25 people show up every time, chances are you're bringing the same 20 every time unless you get brick walled like by a boss, and then you're like, okay, well, this isn't working, let's try a different comp.
This does remind me, because in MUP, I was the 23rd-ish, or I would have been the equivalent of a 23rd. I think I was like 27, because it was 25 man at that time.
Yeah.
There was a dream, and I remember having a conversation with this raid leader, that you're going to get people who love being in on farm, but don't mind not being in for prog, because they're just in it for the gear, they're in it for the parse, they're in it for whatever.
Yeah.
I was one of those people for that raid, so there was an entire portion of Throne of Thunder that I didn't raid progression with, because I joined near the end of that tier. So they were doing, it might have been the boss right before Lei Shen. It was like the Mistresses of Lei Shen or something. I think they were around there. But I would come in for the first like 8 bosses and get fed a bunch of gear, and then I would go to the normal raids, right? So I would get fed a bunch of the normal gear, but I never killed Heroic Lei Shen in that guild because I was never brought. Even though I played mage, I was a good class with a raid buff and everything. Like, but they had 3 mages in front of me, and they weren't able to kill it while bringing me in because I was worse than the other 3 mages.
Yeah, like that's, yeah, like it sucks. Like I like thinking about, like I have very strong emotions about, because I remember, for my memory is shit, but for better or worse, I remember, I want to argue 95% of the people I've like had a decent conversation with in this game. So I was always the guy, the bearer of bad news, to sit down with X, Y, and Z and be like, hey man, next week. Like next week
you gotta fucking
maybe.
go, brother. Sorry.
Like next week maybe. And then, like I said earlier before, I would still help them like find a new guild if they wanted to be in the starting roster. Like, and of course, like most people, not like you mentioned, not everyone wants to be in the starting roster, or the prog roster rather. But like, it still sucks. I remember like some of those conversations were like legitimately heartbreaking. Like I was not mentally, dude, in Cataclysm I was like 18.
Oh yeah,
like,
I remember the day I started college was like 3 days before the WoD launch event. I remember doing the WoD launch event in my dorm room, and my roommate was confused because he didn't understand what World of Warcraft was at all. Like I was a shithead kid for most of my time playing this game.
Yeah, like being a kid telling sometimes adults, like full-fledged 35 fucking year old people, that hey, sorry, you're just not good enough, is really upsetting. Like, and this is not even mentioning the times that like it goes like really poorly when they're like angry, because most of the time, for better or worse, they were just like oh okay, like I get it, like I appreciate you, see ya, like kind of thing. But sometimes, yeah, no, they would pop off. They're like, what do you mean? Like I did blah 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 blah. Like I'm way better than blah blah. Like sorry, you're not. And then you have to hit them with facts, and then they G quit on the spot.
There's been a lot of that. I've been a lot of, not necessarily involved, but I've witnessed a lot of those conversations where somebody gets told that they're on the bench, and then they're gone.
Yeah, like 5 minutes for raid time, like you see someone G quit. And
I've seen that dozens of times.
And everyone in the raid knows what happened.
They don't even need to know, like, that there was a discussion, but they can pretty much put together. Because if they saw that guy in the raid last week and now he's suddenly not here, like,
yeah.
All right, everybody, that's about it for episode 1 of A Seriously Casual Perspective. We definitely trailed off on a bunch of different topics there, but please subscribe to this channel. You'll see a lot more from us in the future. Go ahead and give the like to a video if you like what you saw. Tell us what you thought about it, and then our socials are in the description and on the screen in front of you. Goodbye.
Bye.